What's up, guys? It's Ramona here coming at you with a new video, and today I have such a great one for you. I want to get right into it. A couple of days ago, I told you guys that I would be going to the Homeschool Expo here in Georgia, and I asked you guys if there was any particular curriculum or anything that you guys had in mind that you wanted me to research for you guys or find out more information about, that I would do that. And I figured, what better way to do that than to hear it directly from the source, okay? So this is actually gonna be a two-part video because I interviewed quite a few vendors at this Homeschool Expo, and I really didn't want to edit out too much of what each vendor had to say because I wanted you guys to have enough information to make an informed decision as to whether or not the homeschool curriculum will work for you and your family and your lifestyle. So without further ado, let's get into this video. My name is Ramona, by the way.
Hi, Ramona and Jeannie.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Could you tell me a little bit more about Charlotte Mason and
Yeah, absolutely.
your approach?
So Charlotte Mason was an educator at the turn of the 19th century, right around the time when the Industrial Revolution was really hitting hard. But she studied under the greatest minds of education, John Locke and Rousseau, men of the Enlightenment who studied how children best learn. And she started a school in Ambleside, England, to test out, but also to implement her philosophies of education, which she had spent her whole life learning, trying out, experiencing, and becoming part of her. She created her own philosophy of education, which it became such an important thing in England. She was actually commemorated by the Queen of England.
Wow.
She was a huge educator. So her philosophy of education is just really how children best learn.
And how do they best learn?
So she believed, number one, children need to spend a great deal of time in nature. And do you realize that scientific studies and research have proven this to be true? When you get out in nature, your cortisol levels lower. Children have performed academically better when they have spent more time in nature. And now in schools, they spend less time in nature than ever. They not only do they, when they have recess, do they go out on a fake environment, which is not nature, it's a playground. They have cut recess so much that children are spending more and more time indoors, but they don't even feel comfortable in nature. But studies show the more time children spend in nature, the better they perform, the better they feel, the better they act behaviorally. ADHD symptoms reduce when children spend time in nature. Both of my boys had ADHD. I didn't even know it because they spent so much time in nature as children. They both computer science majors. One just graduated from the University of Georgia, computer science major. The other one is graduating in May, computer science major. Always been on the dean's list, both with ADHD.
That speaks a lot to me because I have a son who has autism and ADHD. And so I didn't realize how much nature impacts.
Incorporating nature into your schedule, making it part of your day, is such an important part of what you do as a homeschooler, how you spend your day. It's not about books. It's more important for them to get comfortable, to have a place to go. God created us for a garden. We actually feel better when we are outdoors. That's really one of her number one philosophies. She has so much that she teaches.
Yeah.
She teaches about living books. Have you heard of the term living books?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so living books are books that bring a subject to life. And so when I was homeschooling my children 20 years ago, and they all went to the University of Georgia on scholarship, the
Nice.
scholarship for the Zell.
Which is great because that kind of debunks another myth that like homeschoolers
Don't go to college or don't do as well in college.
Yes.
My oldest daughter graduated from UGA, magna cum laude. She was on the dean's list almost every semester. She had never sat in a classroom until she went to the University of Georgia as a freshman.
So you homeschooled your entire childhood.
Yeah. So homeschooling works. I wanted to teach my children science using living books, and so I started writing science books for my children.
And this is one of your books?
This is actually a historical fiction time travel series I'm working on, which actually teaches biblical history, creation biblical character and mystery who he is. But he's a little boy, and usually you think of these biblical characters as old men. Well, this one's a little boy. It's somebody who likes animals. Let's just say that.
Okay. Nice.
So let me just take you over here and I'll show you my science books. So these are the Apologia elementary science books, and this was the first one I wrote when my children were little, and I created all these books with my children as lab rats. And so we have astronomy, we have botany, we have flying creatures, swimming creatures, land animals. These cover all the animals, chemistry and physics, and anatomy and physiology.
Okay.
And these all go in depth into science. And this is the Apologia, like elementary through middle school science.
Okay, because I was going to ask what age range.
Yeah, so it's elementary through middle school. And I wrote these because when children want to learn a subject, they want to learn it. They don't want to touch on little bits of every little subject. And that's what most textbooks do, is they just touch on a bunch of different fields of science. My children want to understand science. And so these have been the #1 best-selling science curriculum for over a dozen years. And they really go deep. They use the Charlotte Mason approach to education, living books, and they use another concept that Charlotte Mason talked about, was producing their own work. So they don't create a work, they don't do worksheets and workbooks, because that does not cause a child to think imaginatively and use creativity. Albert Einstein was the one who said imagination is more important than information. And imagination is the true test of genius. And a lot of times school, what they do is they train out a child's imagination. So what my books do is they have the child use their imagination in creating a science. So for example, after they learn about the Earth, and all about the wonderful features of the Earth, and at the end, there's lots of little activities they do during their lessons. But at the end, they are, in addition to activities like make a compass, they are going to have an activity where they create an advertisement to sell the Earth. They've learned about how unique the Earth is, and so now they have to try to sell the Earth in an advertisement to an alien or whoever wants to buy the Earth. And this causes them to use their creativity to express their learning. And Charlotte Mason said, when a child has not produced something from what they've learned, they will not retain it. So they need to produce, not fill out a worksheet, but produce something. Whether it be a project, activity, experiment, or a creative activity. You can't shine a light if your light is dimming and you're not bringing things into your life that fill you back up and make you feel full and whole. Take care of yourself. Self-care is taking care of your husband and your family, because you're going to be a better wife and a better mom when you're taking care of your needs. So don't neglect them. Don't wait until you're done homeschooling before you take care of yourself.
Yeah, that I gotta work better on. Yeah, it's a little hard to do it before homeschool, but
yes, it is. You just gotta schedule it in so you're doing it. So this has you focus on the habits, your prayer, your nature study, what you're going to do each week, and then it has a scripture, and then a Charlotte Mason, like a quote from Charlotte Mason, and then a little kind of explanation, life application from me that relates to the Charlotte Mason quote. And then at the end of every month, you record all the meaningful moments that you had, because you think about when your children were little, really little. Do you remember every month of their lives? You don't remember those special moments unless you write them down. And I wish that I had more memories of my homeschool years. They went so fast. My children are all grown and gone, doing great things, having great lives, and I'm so grateful for the years that I had with them, but I don't remember very many of them. And so this is what this is about. What was your favorite book that you read? What was the funniest moment you had? What made you laugh? Think about all the times you laughed. You forget what those were. Just your best discovery, your answered prayer, what we did well, best outing. Look at the end of most planners, it has you reevaluate, and you have to think about what you did poorly. This makes you think about what you did well. So it's basically a mentor for yourself. You know how we always are looking for encouragement?
Right.
You know where you're going to find encouragement? When you look back over the great things that happened. That's going to encourage you because of all the things that you realize you have done with your children.
What we're doing is we're teaching abstract ideas, math ideas, concretely. So that's why we call it math-y. We really believe in the build, write, say method and teach back, which is mastery. This is a mastery program, not a spiral down program. So a spiral down program will give you, say, a little bit about addition, and then we'll move on to something else, and then we'll spiral back around and learn a little bit more. But if you didn't get it up here, you may get really lost once it spirals to a certain point. So in this program, you're going to learn everything you need to know about single-digit addition and subtraction before you move to the next level to multiple-digit addition and subtraction. So, and I'll just show you how it works. We believe in the build, write, say method. It's very tactile, so it touches all modalities. I have an oldest daughter who went through this, and she's scary smart. And I don't know what she's talking about half the time, but I was able to use that with her. I have a daughter that is an auditory learner and one who probably in public school would have been put in special ed because he was so ADHD and just he couldn't sit still. It was not
My
a
child
value.
is like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a value statement, but they weren't prepared for him.
Right.
So fortunately, we didn't have to do that because we worked at home. So in the build, write, say method, you're going to build it. I'm going to write this 3 plus 7 equals. And we don't want you counting. Counting is not adding. So we're going to go from counting, which is the first thing we learn, and then we're going to add. So you teach your addition, facts, and then those students need to master those facts, right? Mastery is not counting. Mastery means, can you tell me what 3 plus 7 is within 3 seconds? And you're not looking up at the sky, nodding your head, because you're counting in your head that you just know.
Holding the primer, which I give you as a kindergartner, we expect mastery of numbers and counting and associating the numbers with the blocks in that one. But then where she's going there is the alpha,
Which is like first, second grade,
first
grade, yeah.
And then we talked about mastery of facts, like she just said. So that's why we focus on it. Okay, all right. I just didn't want to confuse them, and they had to have all those addition facts, subtraction facts mastered.
Right.
Because it introduces them, but it's just climbing the pump, if you will. So
Right,
just
right.
introduction.
So that's that's your very first introduction. If they can count to 9, pretty good to start. So then when we teach addition, we pull these together because we are adding. We're not counting them, we're adding. And then your student can explore, 3 plus 7, we're not wanting them to count, we're wanting them to look at the blocks and compare. I'm going to need a little bit bigger block. Let's try this. I need one more block. Let's try this. That equals. And it's nice because it makes a little nice equal sign.
And then they have a visual representation of what you're trying to do.
And then the next, so I'm going up a little bit higher. The next that they would learn is solving for the unknown. What plus 7 equals 10? Okay, but we do that purposefully because it sets you up for subtraction. Because now we can say, I have 10, but I owe you 7. So you're going to close that. What does that equal? Now I have 3 left, the difference. So it's very visual. So now I'm going to move up to even a higher level and build this rectangle. And it's really amazing how many people don't realize that when they're doing their multiplication facts, so I have 4 on this side, 3 on this side, 4 times 3 is 12. But what did I just do? I built a rectangle. Every multiplication fact is you're building a rectangle or a square. So you're basically finding areas. Right? So let's look at this one. My factors would be 10. Still, it's a skinny old rectangle, but it's still a rectangle. So there are two places where the wheels fall off the math bus, and that is long division, because you think about what you're doing in long division. You are adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. And if they don't have their math facts down, what they have to do is pop out of that problem and calculate, do another math problem, but counting, and then pop back in. So it's really, really imperative that as you introduce and as you teach, you learn the math facts. And so, not drill. You don't use drilling to teach. You only drill what you know. Does that make sense? So for my ADHD son, once I taught, then he drilled on a pogo stick down in my basement. You know, because we were homeschooling, and you can do that. Or throw a basketball, or do something that we're wiggling, we're still drilling.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, that's the beauty of homeschooling. So then the other place that it falls off is Algebra 1, and that's usually because students don't know fractions. We have a whole book dedicated to fractions, and then another book dedicated to decimals. This, by the way, follows you all the way through your Algebra 1.
Wow. Okay.
So you make a one-time purchase, it goes all the way through. So we purposefully color coordinate everything. So when you're talking about threes, it's always going to be pink.
Okay.
Okay. So this is my one unit. I'm going to turn it around so you can see the contrast. So that's 1/3.
Okay.
So say you're talking about reducing fractions. Ask you, this is my 4. I'm going to put that as an overlay. Now what you have is 4/12, right? Same fraction, just more pieces, that reduces to 1/3. So you see it. You get to really actually see it.
If they have this in public school,
Exactly.
because that makes so much sense now.
Doesn't it? It's just, again, you're teaching abstract concepts instead of just saying memorize this fact.
Yeah, which is what most of school would teach you.
Not explaining that you're building something. Algebra, what is really, really cool is that we have these inserts, and I just kept the insert on the back of this, that all of a sudden this becomes the unknown.
Okay.
So here's a side, and here's a side. So what shape is this in?
Square.
Yeah.
It's a square, so it's x squared. And this is, my blue insert is not in here, but it would become your x plus whatever your units would be. Your guy in primer would start out learning place value, and we teach that on decimal street. And so it's really cool because you have your units house, your tens house, and your hundreds house, and they see it. They visually see where these numbers live. And so that you don't, that whole concept follows you, place value follows you all through these maps.
And is decimal street like something?
There's actually a poster. Now, when my kids were coming along, the poster didn't exist, and so I just built Decimal Street out of cardboard in the basement, and so they could play with it. I always tell people 10 is your friend. Page 10. Anybody, while you're filming, I'll let you see this. This says you can create a free account at digital.demilearning.com. It will give you the first 3 lessons of every level through pre-calculus free.
Nice.
You can watch the videos. Click. There'll be a tab under the videos that correspond to lesson 1. Click that. In PDF form, the teacher's manual is in there, so you can read the teacher's manual, watch the video. What you don't get in there is your student workbook to see how that's laid out.
Right.
But if you go to matthewc.com and look for samples, there'll be a sample of a level, and they're all set up the very same. Now the goal is, and I'll just tell you how your brain works. You have your student's age. Your student is 4
4 and 7.
4 and 7. Let's use your 7-year-old. So you have 7 minutes plus 2 or 3 minutes added to that to get new information in their brains.
Okay.
So if they're crying over math and you're upset, how much learning is happening? So math shouldn't be math, tears and, drill it and then killing it. It shouldn't be that. So the way I used to teach with this, when I had students at home, I would read the teacher's manual so I would know what's going on. We would watch the video together. And then we would build, write, say 1A to a certain point. If I didn't finish the whole thing, if I got, especially in the upper levels, I would come back the next day. I spent about a half hour. As they got older, maybe 40, 45 minutes. But I just don't think math should take 2 hours a day, especially at your level. 25 minutes. Then we would go to B. If they're really getting this concept, I might not do C. I always did D because that is a systematic review, and D has some on the older upper levels. They also have some quick instructions on how to do some of the things we're reviewing. And if they got that quick review, I might not do the systematic review E and F. Might need to, but might not need to. I'm giving yourself permission. A lot of moms have a hard time doing that. Skip the pages. I always did the application and enrichment. And then it would come test time, and I would take the test and write a few problems from the test on the board, especially in the younger years. And I would say, now you teach it back to me. A couple of things that does is it lets me observe you. What are you missing? Do I need to go back and get some of those other sheets that we didn't do because I really don't have the data? And then when I felt pretty confident that they could take the test, then I would give them the test for them to take on that.
You had mentioned something about an application.
Yeah, it's called application enrichment. So that's taking the concept and adding a little bit of fun to it, putting it in everyday life. Because the whole point of math is that you can do a word problem. Because the word problems are really problems that we have. You're in the kitchen, you're cooking, and I only need part of the half because I'm only gonna, how am I gonna do that? It's being able to apply your math in real life situations.
Could you tell me a little bit about Abeka and the program, what you stand for, what you offer, all those things?
So we are a Christian curriculum and Christian organization, and all of our curriculum is going to have Christian worldview throughout. We also have our Bible curriculum that you can buy in addition to our regular programs, so that you can do that subject alongside your kids as a daily subject. Not just a Sunday school,
Oh, okay. So, and what grade did you say you start again?
So our books start at K3, and it goes all the way to 12th grade.
Grade the papers, or
So we have a couple different options for that. For most of our tests and larger projects, if you go with our accredited program, you send that in, and we have graders at the Abeka site that'll go and take care of that for you. But some of the daily assignments, you'll check that for your children, since it's not as big of a grade percentage. You can go ahead and check that for your kids to help them along. But larger assignments you can send in.
so it's accredited, so that means it's recognized by the state. You get a diploma upon completion.
And we even have a program where you can come in to our location at Pensacola, and you can have a graduation ceremony with your kids if they go all the way through.
That's nice to know. That's just offered for high schoolers, or
Right, for
for
high
every?
schoolers.
Okay, that's awesome.
We actually can show you in the catalog here. We have video homeschool kits, we have just the book kits, and then we have the combined kits.
Oh, so it's basically you choose what you
Yeah,
think
you choose the
works
program that
best.
works best for you.
Okay, that's awesome.
And then you can choose individual subjects as well.
It's a subscription box. You get the supplies with everything that you need for the month. And then I have pre-recorded lessons that are loaded on our website. It's in a library for members only. And I'll walk them through step by step how to use the supplies and how to do techniques
necessarily like a guided step-by-step, here's what to do. Some kids use it that way, but some kids love to just take it and do with it what they want.
So inspire creativity.
Yes, it is. But I teach them technique. I teach them, like this month, in August, we're starting all of the elements of art. So they'll get an overview the whole first month, and then each month after that, we'll break it down and do one element each month. So they'll do a more in-depth project based on that element. Yeah.
So it's a subscription base. Can I take one of these?
You sure can. That goes to our website, and then this QR code